Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're in the van with a boat. There's a dinghy in the van and some other stuff, an engine, lots of boat work going on. But right now we're going to talk about communities and systems, your internal system and enlightenment. Now, from an enlightenment perspective, from a perspective outside, it's one of the reasons you might see people get not antisocial but asocial, removed a little bit from social environments, more alone, more out in the woods, or walking along with classical music in their earbuds, just going, whatever it is that systems are still susceptible to stuff. A lot of that is community stuff, and system is your body, the physical body, which includes the brain, which is an organ of the body, and the emergent mind, which is what comes out of the structure of the brain. The brain goes down into your gut, by the way. Forget the whole eye-centric thing. There's as many neurons in your gut as there are in your skull, and it's all kind of together. We have a preference for how we map that, but no one's actually looking for activations in your gut neurons when you have certain emotions. Everyone's looking for stuff up here. So anyway, system, body, brain, mind. And I separate brain out because most people don't remember that the brain is part of the body. People running around in golf carts this morning. So all of that is still susceptible to social stuff, community stuff, other human beings. It's evolved that way, or created that way, or whatever you prefer. Human bodies, the system, it can function fine in isolation, but it doesn't stay isolated when it's in community. Now, you can react to that different ways. Some people are very strong and direct and overcome community, and that's their whole point, and they tend to take it over also. It's about 1 in 20 people. It's a very specific thing, and you can look at it, and you can watch it, and you can emulate it, and when the chips are down, you can kind of tell the 1 in 20. But everyone is affected. So from an enlightenment point of view, you just kind of deal with less, quite often just less community, because it fucks with the system, right? So don't worry about that. I'm going to try to address this from a non-enlightenment perspective. I'm looking at it from an enlightenment perspective, but I'm watching the system and what the system does with myself and other people. And I have some comments to make. And one of them has to do with, materialism, objectivism, whatever it is, the modern scientific view, linear thinking, which is that you help people and you get an equivalent value of help back. And there's no reason to help people unless you're going to get that equivalent help back. And I'll give you an example, a dockside example. Okay, there's someone who's having a problem with an engine, and the engine needs to be replaced. They're not terribly mechanically oriented. They can do some work, but not all the work. All right. I also need an engine replaced, but this is a different person, which is really funny because now I'm watching this and trying to figure out a plan of action based on watching this. And if you have a community on the docks, in the marina, in your neighborhood, whatever, that is involved, then suddenly a bunch of people get together, and there's the non-involvement where people just tell you what you're supposed to do. Oh yeah, this fuel, this pump, this fuel pump, this fuel filter, you need 3 filters and in line, all the stuff. But then there's people who will jump in and help make it happen. Now, the person involved may or may not help a lot. They may or may not know how to help a lot. They may just buy beer. They may cook some food. They may get very active doing some other maintenance issues, other maintenance stuff, say the person is really good at fiberglass repair and just knows nothing about engines. So they start, the engine's going on, so they feel driven. They feel that community involvement. So they go do some fiberglass repair. Normally what would happen is that someone would say, hey, will you help me with this fiberglass repair? And they would be like, yeah, dude. Now, of course, this breaks down because person A, who's being helped, may still think of things in terms of what do I get out of it, not being, it's a different, all the mind viruses can infect you without rational, linear cause and effect recognition. That's normal. Remember, emotions define your reality. And if you're not coming at this from enlightenment, you need to understand very, very clearly that emotions define your reality. They are the basis of your reality. Objective reality, whatever it may or may not be, only impacts you through your emotions. Okay? You can't really escape that. All right. So we mentioned that part. There's just a lot of traffic this morning. It's really early too, so I don't know what's going on. No, Labor Day weekend. That's what's going on. So at the same time, if the community is different, if the community is screw you, you're on your own, we hate you, then it's entirely possible that that project is going to stall and fail and build into a bigger set of problems. And that's going to create problems for the community as a whole, which is great because they have someone to blame for any particular thing that doesn't go right. Because, again, emotions define reality. So if your dog gets hit by a car, somehow in your deep emotions, that person who has been shunned by the community is still at fault. Like, you're going to feel more antagonism towards them. That's how systems work. And this is one of the reasons why Enlightenment people just are like, yeah, you guys do your own thing. We're over here. I'm going to not deal with that. Because systems are still susceptible to everything. We don't want to pay attention to our system and have to debug all that shit, right? There are people who are good at that. And that's fine. Do it. But your environment, your community environment is going to have a huge influence on your system. If you're in a supportive environment, then things are going to be objectively, and I'm going to say this in a conservative sense because I want people to understand that this isn't some hippy-dippy shit. If you're in a supportive environment where people really do support, uplift each other, and do it without an idea of punishment, but do it with support, uplift. Not uplift like the uplift movement in the Appalachians, but help, support each other. It will come around. It does make the entire community better. And the person who you're helping may not be able, for various reasons, mostly psychological and emotional, very rarely intelligence, but mostly psychological and emotional. They may not be able to do big helping projects. Like an engine is something where you put the engine in, you have to tune it, you have to place it, you have to get everything lined up with the drive shaft, because on a boat, usually it's a solid drive shaft. There's no universal joints or anything. It's so it has to be done. You have to figure out the fuel system, fuel filtration system. You have to figure out the venting. There's a lot to it. It's not it's not like dropping a new Briggs & Stratton on a riding mower. 4 bolts, 1 belt, 2 belts. And, you're done. You hook a belt to the blades, hook belt to the transmission. 4 bolts to mount it, you're done. It's not like that. It's more complicated. So the person who you're helping may not be able to do that sort of help in return, repayment, whatever you want to think of it. Their community support may be different. They may barbecue. They may clean up after a party. They may wash off a deck after the cranes come and poop all over it. They may do little things that are 5-minute or 10-minute or half-hour jobs. And if the community is supportive, those will tend to increase in frequency. That's an important one. If they feel comfortable going out, I'm going to use the docks as an example. But sweeping the porch, in an apartment complex, sweeping the sidewalks and porches. This is an example from my childhood. It's just as applicable. But if you're on the docks, the more that happens, the more comfortable people are off their boat, being involved, getting stuff done, the more things get better, the more things work out for everyone. It makes your life exponentially better to have helped this guy with a mechanical project that he's just not really set up for, mentally, psychologically, experience, whatever it is. And in an encouraging environment, he's going to be encouraged to do more. Now, there are always little differences, and there's social stuff, okay? There are societies and social matrices where they don't consider themselves part of the community, part of the society, part of whatever. They don't consider themselves to be a part of it. You're all foreigners. You're not part of my tribe, part of my family, and that is going to break down. You have to get tribal with that person. It's always manageable. There's always something going on. And sometimes what's going on is that they need to go into a tribal environment that just doesn't match yours. That's fine. But don't be too quick on that one. Some of the stuff takes a couple of years to really get moving. And so, don't be too quick to judge and throw people out and be like, "Oh yeah, you're one of those people." That's not going to help your community, your environment. And when I say community, again, I'm not being a Marxist whatever. I'm talking about the fact that people exist in social context. Your social context will get better if it gets better. It's one of the things that I find with certain brands of evangelical Christianity is that their social context is very negative. There's they'll talk about the grand fellowship and how great it was once or twice a year, but most of their experience is very negative. But you notice that they don't have block parties. They don't have weekly fun, everyone wants to go potlucks. They don't have that sense of community outside of their Sunday fellowship. That's a key. It's one of those things that you can see, you can look at. All right, moving on back to what I'm talking about. This isn't about IQ. I don't want to talk about IQ right now. I will in a future video, but that's actually fungible. You can change that. It's not about that. It's about social context, social cues, social behaviors. It's all very deep stuff, but it's all very easy to understand. You don't have to make a fancy map out of it. You can figure it out almost by instinct. It's pretty close to instinctual in the system, the human body, the human existence, the human body, brain, mind, which isn't you, but it is if you're not enlightened, so don't worry about it. Just let it go. I have a friend, and she's living in an environment that is not great for her. It's a very ideologically captured environment. All the people in her group home are very ideologically far off to one side. They have very big slogan, view, talking point, dog whistle type of stuff. And she doesn't quite match that. And what it does is it causes her extreme emotional distress because, one, she's insecure about her living situation because she's not actually a part of the community. The community doesn't have an uplift or a support mechanism. It's not a community of growth and positivity. It's a community of polarization. So it's if you're really into that, if you do the cult fanatic thing, it works for a while. But she's not there. So her problem is that she's insecure in the community, and that causes her a lot of emotional distress, just huge amounts of emotional distress. And it can drive you crazy. It can drive you literally into a locked ward crazy being in a community like that. And the community itself I mean, you can say it's toxic, but the community itself can, you can see it. They can see it. They know what they're doing. They may not be able to control it. They may not be able to influence it. They may not be able to recognize it consciously and acknowledge it, but it's there. It's definitely happening. Okay, it's something that's going on. And on some level, as a human entity, as a human body, brain, system, you recognize what's going on, but of course you can't necessarily do anything about it, because unless you're one of those 1 in 20 people, you're kind of stuck with it. So this person, she doesn't fit in, and it causes a lot of stress. But she can't get out of the community because everything in every other community she encounters is very materialistic and linear, and she's not in a position to drop $50,000 to join a co-op. So stuck. And the reason I'm making this video has nothing to do with her or this poor guy on the docks or my engine project or anything else. I mean, my engine project is what it is, and if I decide to just leave it and sell everything, I do, because, hey, I can go off into the woods. I don't have an insecurity thing about that. Man, maybe I should go off into the woods. Wow. Anyway, done that. So, the point of the video is to pay attention to your community and maybe try to have a few more positives. You know, a few more positive interactions, a little bit of generosity, and a little bit of involvement. Find the community that you can take home, that you can have a block party with. We live in a very isolated society. We're supposed to go home to our couch without other people and watch our shows, which we'll talk to other people about, but we're watching the shows. And it's very isolated, and it's not very, communal. So that's, something to think about is where do you get to bridge parties instead of TV shows, instead of Netflix? Think about that and see what you can do. Just Frisbee in the park is enough. I am totally Church of the Frisbee, so walking in the park with people, a walking group, going out and having non-conversation groups. It's like, hey, we're going to go read together. Totally fine. More social involvement will actually make this all better for you. And that's all I got. Stay sideways.